Hey nerds, in this video we do a spoiler-free review of Evil Dead Rise, written by Lee Cronin and directed by Lee Cronin, starting now. Welcome to the Nerd Social, I'm John.
And I'm Nathan.
The spoiler-free summary logline for this movie is: a new group of young people uncovered the Necronomicon, inadvertently unleashing the mother of all evil. Moving the action out of the woods and into the city, Evil Dead Rise tells the twisted tale of two estranged sisters whose reunion is cut short by the rise of flesh-possessing demons, thrusting them into the primal battle for survival as they face the most nightmarish version of family imaginable. So, Nathan, we're going to get right into the spoiler-free review here. What did you think?
I think we'll probably talk back and forth a bit, but just my top line thoughts about the movie. I think it was a really good movie, actually. I didn't. So between the two of us, you are the Evil Dead expert. I know of Evil Dead because I'm familiar with Sam Raimi, but the only thing that I'm really familiar with mostly is Sam Raimi's work on Spider-Man. So that's why I know that he's known for Evil Dead, and I sort of know some of his tropes, like his fascination with that, because that showed up also in Multiverse of Madness, and it showed up in the Spider-Man movies. And so, I know of his work, but I haven't seen any of the Evil Dead stuff. But even not seeing any of the Evil Dead stuff, and I mean, being a light horror fan, I was actually talking to David and Conju last night as we were recording our review of Picard. They're like, "Yeah, they can't do horror." Horror works on me. When we watched this yesterday, you were saying, horror doesn't really work on you anymore. It works on me. I feel anxiety. I feel fright. I feel fright if it is well crafted, but it doesn't stop me from sleeping. It stops them from sleeping. So it actually is a thrill ride for me. I enjoyed being disturbed in the moment and then leaving it in the theater afterwards. So I think this is a fairly well structured horror movie for doing just that. And not just on a gore level, because I think this franchise is well known for gore, but there's a whole lot of psychological stuff in there as well. Yeah. As you can see from the posters and other material, there's a family involved here, and kids are in peril, and was that meme that goes around with that Michael Jordan meme, F those kids. That's basically what the movie is. This is basically what the movie is saying. So if you have concerns about horror in general, you probably shouldn't see the movie. Of course, if you have issues with possibly children being in peril or being hurt, you probably shouldn't see the movie. But I think it's a very good thrill ride. Also silly in places as well. I think intentionally silly, and also it has some nods to the Evil Dead franchise that I even recognize, having not seen any of the Evil Dead movies, but they're so iconic that they're sort of in the zeitgeist. So I know some of the iconography from the movies, even having never seen the movies. So yeah, I think it was a pretty good film.
Well, what rating would you give it?
A road trip. I like I said, if you're a horror film buff, it's definitely worth going to the theater and seeing. Risking going to the theater if you're still concerned with COVID and actually seeing. I definitely enjoyed the experience of watching this movie, and we were talking about this yesterday more than I did watching Quantum.
Yep. That was our first comment walking out, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so like I went and I risked my life or whatever, or not really risk my life, but like I risked infecting my infant to see that movie, and it was much more of a of a worth it,
Mhm.
much more worth it for this
Yeah,
one. Um, so yeah, I definitely I would give it a road trip. So 8 out of
8 out
10.
of 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this movie is a worthy addition to the franchise, Evil Dead franchise. It's not a sequel, so everyone should understand that. It's a standalone. It can definitely be seen without having to watch any of the previous Evil Dead movies. So definitely no needs there. But definitely, like you said, Nathan, lots of callbacks to the previous movies, some Easter eggs here and there. Um, Definitely some images that harken back to some of the more successful scenes that were shot by Sam Raimi as well. So it calls back to some of his styles as well, his camera work and such. So uh, I thought the acting was pretty good in this movie. If you've seen the previous Evil Dead movies, it's not great acting at all. So it's a huge improvement, right? Because those movies were
Yeah.
made back in the '80s when all the horror movies definitely did not have very good actors. In this one here, including the
Yeah.
kids,
There were B
B
movies.
movies.
Yeah.
That's right. And in this
Yeah.
movie, all the actors I thought, did a great job. Two people particularly stand out for me. The little girl, Nell Fisher, she's great. I think she's gonna, if she continues on that path, from what I've seen here, I think she ought to be fine. She ought to be. She's got a bright future ahead of her. And then the other actress is Alyssa Sutherland. For those of you who've seen Vikings, she played Princess Auslav, and I thought I recognized her
Mm.
when I was watching. I was like, man, I've seen her somewhere before. For some reason, she seems younger in this movie compared to Vikings, but she did a great job as well. Very intense uh, portrayal, her part alone. So lots of scares in this movie. Definitely not funny, campy bits like the previous Evil Dead movies. Definitely tons of blood, tons of gore, and the cool thing that's very different from this in this movie compared to the other movies. It's definitely a new setting, right? It's definitely a new setting. The
Mm.
previous ones, it's not just cabin in the woods, and because of that, it just that new setting alone, I think, brings a lot to the table. Makes it fresher in that sense. So for me, as you mentioned, Nathan, horror movies just don't do it for me anymore. I don't get scared. Like, I think I'm just totally desensitized. So I would say, just from that perspective, it's a 6 out of 10. It's a date night movie. It's
Mm.
great for that. But as a horror,
Mm.
if I were to be a horror fan, I think I would give it a high 9 out of 10 movie marathon, and that means it's pretty exceptional with friends. Go theater hopping with you, see it multiple times, especially if you're a horror buff. It's definitely, I can see it being a 9 out of 10 for all the horror freaks out there. But from my perspective, being as desensitized as I am, it's a 6 out of 10. Yeah.
Fair enough. So you're not going to revisit it because it didn't work its magic on you.
No, I'm telling you, man, just horror movies in general recently, every single one of them is like, as soon as I'm done, it's like, okay, that was okay. That was okay.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I don't know that it's not the first thing that I want to watch, but I will seek out some good horror, and I've seen this done far less effectively in recent
Mhm.
years. Um, so yeah, I think this is high bar for a horror film. Horror films can be gets even though we're not in the B movie era,
Mhm.
they don't necessarily get the best
Yeah.
actors.
Yeah.
They don't necessarily get the best plots.
Mhm.
They're usually shot for very cheap because you can make a horror film for very cheap, and it can make a lot of money. Um, and sometimes you see that in the production value as well. I think the production value in the show, the production value in this movie, it looks really great. The setting, this new setting, and if I think we're going to actually show some of the trailer, or we showed some of the trailer earlier
Yeah.
on. This new urban setting is pretty creepy and claustrophobic.
It
Um,
works.
it, it,
It
huh?
works. It works very well how they did.
It works. It works very
Yeah.
well. Yeah, yeah. As I said, I'm not familiar with the franchise, but I do understand that the franchise has as a trope, like cabin in the
Yep.
woods sort of thing. Um, but they managed to make this setting just as claustrophobic, just even though it's in the middle of the city.
Yep.
Um, just because of how they structured the script, or how Cronin structured the script. Yeah, and yeah, it's a and the cast, as you said, Ursula Sutherland does a really great job as the mom, but after you've seen the trailer or any of the promotional stuff, she's possessed at a certain point
The demon.
by the what are the what do they call them, the flesh possessing
Demons. Yep.
So she has so she has to play two parts.
Correct.
And every time someone gets possessed, they have to play two parts. So everyone who is possessed, you're seeing their acting chops, because they're playing two different parts basically in this movie. And so you're seeing their range, and you definitely see, without spoiling anything else about who else is possessed, because there's other people in the building as well, because they're in an apartment building. I will say that she specifically does a really great job, in both parts.
Yeah. Yeah. So the setting, so the locations they picked, all the different sets that they had, were I thought great, high quality. It looked run down like it should. Definitely sets the mood.
Mhm.
At the same time, the effects too. Let's talk about that. The effects, the makeup,
Yeah.
all the visuals and the special effect, all that stuff. I thought it was top notch. There was nothing that stuck out to me where I said, "Oh, that's terrible. That looks so fake," or anything like that.
No. They spent really that, like everyone in every department was doing their
Yeah.
job. Like Cronin hasn't. I mean, this is his. I think his second. This is his second feature. He made another film where another family horror
Mm,
film. Because so I guess he likes the psychological
yeah.
drama called The Hole in the
Mm,
Ground. It's if you want to watch it, it's on Paramount Plus. In that movie, it's the kid who's possessed.
ah,
So he I guess he likes family dramas where it's not just someone just running, but like the stakes are compounded by someone you
yeah.
love has something a hold of them. Um, so yeah, it's the production value is pretty high
Very high.
for a horror
Yep.
film. And yeah, and the effects are really great as
Yep.
well. Yeah, and he's the script. It's really creative with the gore, and it is gory in places, but it's not. Well, I was going to say it was not schlocky, but I guess at some point it is a little schlocky. There's it's there's a point at which there's a lot of blood.
Yeah.
At a
Oh,
certain
like I
point.
said,
So
tons of blood.
tons,
So,
tons, tons,
tons of
tons of
blood.
blood. Almost like yeah, yeah. I think you're going to intercut images as we talk. So there's an image of one of the people with like blood all over them. It was a really good movie. I think it's if you are a horror fan, you're not going to want to miss this.
Yeah.
I guess if you're an Evil Dead fan, I mean, you would have to tell me, John, whether or not it's a worthy addition. But I wouldn't be able to speak to that. But I think it's as a person who likes horror. Or isn't repelled by horror. I think it was a really well structured movie.
Yeah, if I had to rank, well, not necessarily rank, I'll just say it like this. It's definitely better than the remake that was the Evil Dead remake in 2013. Even though that was
Mm-hmm.
also very high quality,
Mm-hmm.
they also went away from the camp as well, focusing more on the horror. And just like in this movie, so I still found this movie to be better than the 2013 version. It doesn't beat the original Evil Dead movie and Evil Dead 2. Army of Darkness is just another category in itself. That was like campy funny. It was just really a comedy horror is really what it was. Again, I think this is a worthy addition. Again, it's a standalone. You don't have to watch the previous ones. But after you watch this movie, I do recommend going back to the originals because see how it was done in the first place, right? See what it's actually taking from, how it derived from those films that leads to this movie and made the originals such classics.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Nathan, any final thoughts?
No, I think like as I said, if you're a horror film person, definitely see it. And if you're not, you should stay far away from this movie. It's crazy.
It's definitely a rated R movie.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like if you're not even remotely a horror, don't watch this movie. Like it will have images that will haunt you. Like I said, when I leave the movie theater, I didn't have any problem sleeping last night. But if you're a person who takes that stuff to bed, don't watch this movie. But if that description excites you, you definitely should see this movie. So yeah.
So definitely, you horror fans, I think you're in for a treat with this movie.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, that concludes our review of this movie. Again, folks, if you like this type of content, like these types of reviews that we do, please like and subscribe to our channel as well so we can get you more of what you like. Until next time, everyone. Bye, everyone.